Hello and welcome in, everybody. I'm Andromeda Astria, and today we're going to talk about what to do if you're having trouble finding your Myers-Briggs type. We're going to go over a few things because most of these are the reasons you're going to be having a hard time typing yourself. First off, are you old enough? You really want to be in your mid-20s to find an accurate type because functions develop throughout your life. When you're in your teens and early 20s, you've only developed 2 functions, and it is very difficult to figure out your type based off of that. So while it is super tempting to find it when you're younger, you really want to wait until you're a little bit older to be able to get an accurate type. Next, we have, what is your emotional state like? Are you extremely stressed? Are you very upset? In order to find an accurate type, you're really going to want to be in a very even and calm emotional state. So wait until you're feeling pretty good before going and trying to type yourself. The next is, do you have a diagnosis that might skew your type? These are things like depression or ADHD, which can be mistaken for feeling types and extroverted intuition types. They're not the same, they are not correlated in any way, but it can be really easy to mistake yourself for one of those types when you do have that kind of diagnosis. So take your diagnoses into consideration when you're typing yourself. The next one is, how has your culture and life conditioned you? So there are a lot of things that are expected of you based on your gender, based on the place you grew up in, based on your family position. Are you the oldest? Are you the youngest? There are certain things that you're going to have been taught are what you should be doing. And you're going to need to filter out what you've been told you should be from what you really are. So take that and filter out everything anyone has ever told you that you should be doing or that you should be like or you should be thinking and get to the core of what you truly are. Last is there some aspect of your life that makes you use a specific function? This is things like if you're a teacher, you're going to want to use a lot of extroverted feeling. Also, if you're a parent, you'll be using a lot of extroverted feeling. This is why a lot of people type their mothers as extroverted feeler types. Every mother is not an extroverted feeler, but the job of mother does force you to use extroverted feeling. The same thing with if you're in some sort of really highly analytical field, you'll be using a lot of introverted sensing and introverted thinking. You may not have those types, but you're going to be forced to use them. So look at what your life is forcing you to use and filter those out, because just because you're having to use them doesn't mean you're good at using them. And what we want to do for typing is figure out the things that come naturally to you and that you are good at, not the things that you use because you have to. Now that we've gotten through that, here's what you want to do to find your type. You want to focus on the pairs, because focusing on the pairs allows you to find only 2 functions that you use and figure out what your type is. So if you are certain that you use extroverted sensing, you don't have to keep looking at the intuitions because now you can be positive that you're using introverted intuition. No matter how hard of a time you've had figuring out what type of intuition you have, you don't need to keep going because if you have extroverted sensing, you have to have introverted intuition. And the same thing goes with the judging types. If you've discovered that you definitely have extroverted feeling, you don't have to keep looking at the thinking types because you are guaranteed to have introverted thinking. Now that you've figured out a couple of your functions, what you're going to do is you're going to go to a chart like this. You can make your own or you can use this chart, but what you want to do is you want to have a list of every single type that uses each function. So we need to look on this chart for extroverted sensing. That is the second section, and we're going to look at it. What types use it? INTJ, INFJ, ISTP, ISFP, ENTJ, ENFJ, ESTP, and ESFP. Then we are going to go down to the extroverted feeling section down at the bottom. And we're going to look at the types, and we're going to cross-reference them with the extroverted sensing. So we're going to look. ISFJ, is that on the extroverted sensing? It is not, so we know we are not an ISFJ. Next we have INFJ, is that an extroverted sensing? It is, so INFJ is a possibility. Next we're looking at ISTP, and again, that is in extroverted sensing, so that is a possibility. Now we're looking at INTP, that is missing from extroverted sensing, so we are not an INTP. Next, we look at ESFJ, and again, that is missing from extroverted sensing. We can cross that off the list. Then we look for ENFJ, which is in extroverted sensing, so that's another possibility. We look at our ESTP, that also is in extroverted sensing, so we have another possibility. Then we're looking for ENTP, and it is not there. So what we've done is we have narrowed it down from 16 types to 4 types. which is fantastic. We don't know which one we are yet, but we are narrowing things down. We used only 2 functions to narrow ourselves down to 4 possible types. Now we know we are either an INFJ, ISTP, ENFJ, or ESTP. And we can narrow it down further from there on the next slide. Next, we're gonna be working on the order. Now that you have figured out which function family you're in, all you really have to do is figure out either the weakest, the strongest, or the 2 middles, and you will know what your type is. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna look and see, is there one that is clearly stronger than the others? This is something that you are always very comfortable using, has never given you any trouble. Maybe people compliment you on it. It's something that you look forward to using when you get to use it. If there's one that is very clearly the strongest for you, that is excellent, and you can go ahead and figure out your order. If there's not, which is fairly common, because a lot of times you'll be so comfortable with your dominant function that you won't even know that you use it. So if you cannot find your strongest, that is totally fine. We can go about it a couple different ways. Next, we're going to look at, is there one that is clearly your weakest? Is there one that you know you're terrible at, that you don't really want to use? Anything along those lines. We'll go over a little further how to really pick out the weakest in the next slide, but if there's one that you're really positive that you are absolutely terrible at using, then that'll give you the weakest, and you can go ahead and figure out your order from there. The next version of this is figuring out if there's a pair that feels really similar. Perhaps you really weren't sure about extroverted sensing and introverted intuition, but you were having a really hard time deciding if you use extroverted feeling or introverted thinking more. If they feel really equal, then those are going to be your middle functions and not your primary or weakest function. Now, you may not know which order they're in, so that will narrow it down to 2 different types, but you will be able to at least narrow it down to 2 types and then be able to read about them and try and figure it out. Identifying your weakest function can be the best way to find your type, especially if you're struggling. This is because a lot of people are more comfortable identifying their weaknesses than they are identifying their strengths, but hey, we're going to make use of that and we're going to help you find your type. So the first thing you want to do is you want to look at something that you're least comfortable with. So which function, while you may be good at it, is something that you don't really enjoy using? Is one of the functions a function that you just kind of dread having to use, or when you use it, it feels like it's draining you? Then next we're going to look at which is the function under which you've made your worst decisions. Again, you may use them all equally, but one of them is not going to lead to the best results. And if you can figure that out, then you can figure out what your weakest function is. Next, we're going to look at which one have you always admired in others? A lot of times people's weakest function is something that they really wish they were good at and they've been trying to build up. So they will oftentimes see it as something admirable in other people. So do you see someone who's using extroverted feeling as someone who is just amazing and you wish you were more like them and you try really hard but you're never quite there? Well, then maybe extroverted feeling is your inferior function. The final thing, and oftentimes the best way to find your inferior function, though it is not exactly the kindest way to find it, is there one that hurts more to be told you're bad at? This would be something along the lines of if someone tells you, man, you're really terrible at reading the room and you're not good at understanding other people's feelings, and that actually feels bad and embarrassing to you, that's going to be because it's in your lower functions, not in your upper functions. Your first 2 functions, you know you're good at. Whether you know it consciously or subconsciously, if someone criticizes one of your top 2 functions, it's not going to affect you. You're going to be able to brush it off because it's just silly and false, and you're aware of that. But if someone criticizes one of your lower 2 functions, it's going to hurt a lot more because you're trying really hard. These are functions you're actually putting work into and trying, and if you're failing at them, it's going to feel when someone tells you you're not good at them. So what I'm going to do to help you guys is go ahead and go through and criticize each one of the functions. So if this is not something that you think you can handle, go ahead and skip to the next part of the video. But if you're really struggling, this might help you. So the first one is you are terrible at reading the room and you have no idea what other people are feeling. If that hurt a little bit, then extroverted feeling is probably one of your bottom functions. Now, if it's not in your function stack at all, it'll probably hurt a little bit too. So mostly pay attention to the functions that you know are in your function stack. The next one would be your sense of style is ridiculous. I don't know why you dress that way. That is going to be an introverted feeling one because introverted feeling is all about personal identity and personal style. So if that hurts a little bit, Introverted feeling is probably lower on your stack. Then let's go ahead to thinking types. You are terrible at organizing things. I don't know why you're in charge. If that hurt at all, extroverted thinking. Next one would be, you're not very logical and you're not very good at connecting ideas together. If that hurt, that's going to be a combination of introverted thinking and introverted intuition. Either one of those could be your lowest function. Next, we will go with, you're really klutzy and you're terrible at noticing things that are happening around you. If that hurt to hear, extroverted sensing is probably low on your list. Next would be, you really don't remember what happened in the past. Your memories are always kind of wrong, and using them to try and figure out what's going to happen next is a terrible idea for you. Other people are way better at that. If that hurt at all, introverted sensing might be yours. Next, we'll go with, you're really not that creative. Your ideas aren't very good, and you're pretty much just scatterbrained. I don't know why you bother. That would be extroverted intuition low down on your function stack. And finally, we have, you don't actually have any insights, do you? You just kind of make stuff up and you're usually wrong about it. That would be for introverted intuition. So I'm very sorry for all of those. Hopefully they helped a little bit and didn't hurt too much. That is all I have for you today. Hopefully this has helped you find your type, even if you've been struggling. If you're still struggling and still can't figure it out, go ahead and pop a question down underneath this video, or you're welcome to join the Discord and pop a question into the Myers-Briggs section, or stop by a live stream and I'm happy to help you there. Hopefully this has helped you guys a lot and that last bit didn't hurt too much. I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day.